students, welcome to this series on entrepreneurship. Today we are going to study entrepreneurship through micro, small and medium enterprises. Now let's study the objective of this lecture. The basic objective is to study the traditional and the modern definition of MSME and the concept and role of MSME. That is, we are going to study the micro, small, medium enterprises, the concept and definition which has been changed by government in a recent year. Now, let us study the concept of small, medium sized enterprises. SMEs or SMBs, they are businesses whose personnel numbers fall below certain limits. The abbreviation SME is used by international organizations such as the World Bank, United Nations and World Trade Organization, that is WTO. SMEs and economic growth. SMEs outnumber large companies by a wide margin. They employ many more people. In developing countries, smaller micro and informal firms have a larger share than in developed countries. They build innovation and competition in many economic sectors. Now, small and micro enterprises, they start with very little capital, they start with very few hands. So, they outnumber as compared to the larger organization which require large investment, large infrastructure and lakhs of people to make that system work. But here 2 or 3 family members can also design a small number of facilities to give community health and to give community services in a better way. SMEs all over the world are doing a great job in terms of generating employment, in terms of generating services, products, processes and goods to the people. Now, let us study the section 7 of MSMED Act of 2001 for enterprises engaged in the manufacturing of goods. First schedule of Industries Development and Regulation Act of 1951. So, here we are studying the section 7 for only manufacturing goods, which is the Industries Act of 1951. First is the definition according to this Act of 2001. Micro enterprises. Investment in plant and machinery does not exceed 25 lakhs rupees. That is, if 25 lakhs rupees are there in investment of plant or machinery, then it is known as a micro enterprise. Small enterprises are investment in plant and machinery is more than 25 lakhs rupees, but does not exceed 5 crores rupees. So, it is a range between 25 crores, it is a range between 25 lakhs to 5 crores. This is known as a small enterprise. Medium enterprises is investment in plant and machinery is more than 5 crores of rupees, but does not exceed 10 crores rupees. So, medium enterprises invest 5 to 10 crores of rupees in plant and machinery. Now, this was definition according to section 7 of 2001 for manufacturing of goods, but for manufacturing or designing of services, the definitions are different. Definitions for service organization, the micro enterprises are defined as investment in equipment does not exceed 10 lakh rupees. That is, micro enterprise is designed on the basis of just an initial amount of 10 lakhs. Small service enterprise is investment in equipment is more than 10 lakhs, but does not exceed 2 crores. That is, between 10 lakhs to 2 crores, it is a small enterprise for giving services. Medium service enterprises investment in equipment is more than 2 crores rupees, but does not exceed 5 crores. So, investment in equipment is between 2 to 5 crores of rupees, then it is known as medium sized service enterprise. Now, let us study the developing countries and the MSME sectors. What is the importance of these small sector organizations for growing countries and for developing countries? The MSME sector makes a vital contribution to GDP, growth, value addition, employment, increased output and to profits. This sector though works with a very small capital and gives employment to very less numbers, but still because there are large number of sectors working, so many people get connected and employed. Here the impact on the GDP is direct, the value addition to the community is higher because the local needs are being understood, the local festivals are being understood, and local designs are easy and adaptable to the people according to the taste, culture and values of the people. It gives employment and output which increases the profits for the society and also profits for the households. Impact of MSME on GDP. MSME also impacts GDP indirectly through increased innovation, vitality and growth impetus to economic activities, increased output, employment and exports, and instills a competitive culture. It heightens technological awareness. Now, these small scale sectors do impact the GDP because indirectly they increase the innovation, the standard of living of the people, the economic turnovers and the economic multiplier impact of the money is improved because the transaction of money takes place between the households. Here a very small person who is generally having a small farmland can start with the agriculture growth and give tomatoes, potatoes or vegetables to the at least 10 houses, or if you have 5 cows you can give milk to at least 5 household. Or even big revolutions like Amul revolution had been designed on the basis of individual household collecting milk. The milk collection through household is coming to the cooperatives, and from cooperatives it is going to the big sectors. So, even the supplier based enterprises who are supporting big enterprises form a vital segment of society in giving you the daily facilities of milk, bread, butter, services of hospitals, doctors, professionals, advisors, designers, tailors. They are supporting the society in a big way because the kind of the attention which even the small customers need cannot be looked after by very big organization. So, the customized attention and the customized uh, understanding of the problems can be looked up to, by the small sector who have enough time, enough attention given to the customers. So, this is a very big segment of the society who is impacting GDP in a big way. Advantages of MSMEs. They help to achieve fair and equitable distribution of wealth. They help in regional dispersion of economic activities. They assist in fostering self-help and entrepreneur culture. They bring skills and capital through various lending and developing skill sets. They build resilience to withstand the economic upheavals and maintain a reasonable growth rate. Now, when the SME sectors work in a committed way, they try to balance the kind of the recession cycle, they kind to help you to balance the kind of the major impacts which are economically very disastrous for the country. Maybe it is new substitutes coming up, new technology coming up, changing weather, some kind of mishaps happening in society, global imbalance between the government instability is there. So, these kinds of hazards do impact the life of the people, but if the growth of the SMEs is higher in any society, it will help you to balance these kinds of economic upheavals in the society, because people can earn and be independent with their own way of generating products and services, and at least give the basic form of transactions to share and grow in a better way. SMEs are important for any society and for any countries. Higher is the number and the contribution of small scale sectors. They look after their own needs and generate their own values to design economic systems which are self sustaining. Now, let us study the amended Act of 2018 for MSMEs. Here the definition has been changed by the government, where micro enterprises are units where annual turnover does not exceed 5 crore. Small enterprises is unit where the annual turnover is more than 5 crores but does not exceed 75 crores. Medium enterprises is units where the annual turnover is more than 75 crores of rupees but does not exceed rupees 250 crores. Now, here the definition of MSMEs has been changed by government through ordinance in 2018. The reason is that initially the definition, which was the older definition, referred to investment in plant and equity, which was very vague figure, that is, it was not very transparent for the governments to give subsidies and loan. So, they changed the figure based on the turnovers. Here the investment in plant and machinery is now not considered, and as the rupee has depreciated, so even the kind of the advantage or the policies and the frameworks which are designed for these sectors are not reaching to that particular segment. So, the government has designed this figure. So, actually companies or people who are working with this segment get the advantage of the government promotions and the government subsidies. Here the turnovers can be depicted through the GST network turnovers. This is in record, and this can be actually people who are in need of loans and people who are performing can get the benefit. Otherwise, when the investment was taken as a part of giving subsidies and loan, people were undervaluing their investment and taking advantage of the government facilities. So, actual person who is in need of these support from the government was not getting the help. The new policy decided to take turnover as the basis of definition. So, here the micro enterprises are defined with the turnover of 5 crores, which will be reflected by the online turnovers registered through the Income Tax Regulation Acts. The small enterprises will be 5 crores to 75 crores of turnovers, and medium enterprise would be above 75 crores to 250 crores, where here the 250 crores, if you have turnover above this, the corporate tax will be somewhere about 30% of your total turnover. Now, the advantages of new move of the government. The move is expected to improve the ease of doing business, avoid unnecessary inspections, and enable authorities to verify claims of businesses using the sales data from the GST network. Now, why this definition was amended? Because the government could not verify the status of the actual MSME sectors, that is, who are micro enterprises, who are small enterprises, even big enterprises who are working in market, who have lot of power and infrastructure, they were taking all the facilities of the government. So, the poor person who is looking after the society with their meager funds is not able to sustain in the market. The government basically has allowed this kind of changes, so that unnecessary inspections, unnecessary recording and unnecessary connection is eased down, the transparency is more, the recordings can be easily available from the GST network, which is online, and people who have their turnovers can generally sustain and get the loans and the banking aid from the financial institutions. It is easy for financial institutions also to give loan and to regulate these kinds of organizations. They can communicate easily, they can easily recover their funds. So, even the banks will be in less debt, that is, the communication between the organizations was not very easy, because sometimes there were fake entities, there were addresses which were fake, and the papers were not showing the full valuation. But because of this GST network, most of the recordings are online, and since you are giving tax to the government, so the communication between the bank, the financial institution and the enterprises is more transparent. So, there will be less fraud, and even the banking system and the financial system would become sound, where unnecessary utilization of funds for personal gain and selfish interest or corruption will be less. Now, support of central bank. The central bank raised the repayment period before MSME loans. They are classified as bad loans from 90 days to 180 days. The corporate tax will be 25% for companies having turnover of 250 crores. That is, the central bank is also supporting. Initially, they designed that if they are not able to pay a loan within 90 days, it will be considered a bad loan or it will be rated down. But this period has been raised to 180 days, and the turnover of 250 crores, is liable to have a corporate tax of 25%. This is the recent figure. Initially, the finance minister had given a corporate tax of 30%, which has been recently changed to a corporate tax of 25% to companies having turnover of 250 crores. Now, let us study the challenges of MSME sector. They have more expensive contracts, they have higher transportation cost, they have higher management cost, poor communication, cultural differences and lapses in technology structure. Now, since these organizations are very small, so they need to build operations which are costly. That is, you are only working for a very small system or you are working for a very small segment. So, your transportation cost will be very high, the per unit cost will be high, the efficiency in the operations will not be high as compared to the larger organizations who have big platforms and have lower cost, because higher is the turnover, less is the per unit cost. Now, in this, when the SMEs employ only 3 people or they are employing only 10 people, so even the leadership and the management cost would be more. If you hire professionals, the kind of the services which you need from them, it will be very difficult for them, because to sustain this kind of help and this kind of professional aid will be difficult, because the cost is a big issue for SMEs to work, since their products are not so professional and they are not so big in their turnovers, the cost is definitely going to be higher. Now, the evaluation criteria for giving loans and financial help. When the banking system is giving help to the SMEs, they are basically evaluated on the basis of the past projects, the people concerned, the pricing systems, the performance of the organization and the platforms on which they are working. When these sectors they connect with bank, it is very difficult, because the project is evaluated for the viability, and also the person who is involved needs to show their financial validity and the credibility in the market. That is, the credit scores are important, the guarantors are important, and a person who is giving guarantee also needs to have financial viability and credibility in the market. So, the past performance of the person, how he is filing the returns, what is the kind of the asset valuation, what is the wealth of the person, what is the performance of the person in society. If the past projects are done, they are reflected through the turnovers and the kind of the products which you are giving to the society. So, for even these small sectors, it is very difficult to connect with the banking sector and to get all the financial help. The evaluation criteria is difficult, as there is little help which has to be distributed over a large segment of the society. Now, the problems of MSMEs are the unclear objectives, the vague design requirements, the lack of coordination, language barriers, the domestic layoffs. Now, sometimes these sectors are very small, but they face lot many problems of understanding the regulations of the government, the changing ordinance of the government, the environmental laws. There are high penalties which are being imposed on these kinds of the organizations. Sometimes the taxations are so severe that they can force these SME sectors to be closed down. The high cost of rental, the lack of coordination, the communication with the government, and the kind of the language problems which they are facing. They are working in local regions, not connecting to the national language also. There are cities and villages in South India who are too connected with their own local languages. They are not able to understand Hindi, they are not able to read Hindi. So, even if the policies and the financial support is coming, they are not able to access, because the lack of communication between the government and the people is very high. The problems which these SMEs face is due to their unclear objectives of being how to support their business through a good vision and through a good value system. Now, let us study the strategies to build SMEs. The SMEs can prosper and develop the economy through cost savings, access to expertise and skills, building higher software quality of the systems and the processes, make capital funds available with cash infusion, and you can sharing of risk can also be an ability to grow. Now, what could be the best strategy to design the SMEs? The best strategy could be they can reduce the cost because the funds are less. So, the unnecessary cost in high infrastructure can be saved by working in medium kind of infrastructures where you can create not concrete infrastructures, but you can go with tin shades, and you can try to create layouts which require minimum availability of things to support the operations of the activities. So, many things can be cut down, cost saving can be one aspect, and you can hire the expertise of the people to run the organization by investing in right gadgets and right kind of systems where you can understand the processes, where cost can be saved and process can be done. You can access to good softwares and connect with the already working websites to promote the goods and services through the social networks where they have already technical people who are supporting the social platforms. To create your own platform and your own website can be costly and could be risky. So, you can transform it to social platforms and use the already working softwares in the marketing, and the capital fund should be infused through the cash support from the family members, and the risk can be shared if 2 or 3 people can come together and design a venture. Here the risk will be less and people can make the project successful because the kind of the fund involved of individual is less. So, the SME sectors can work in a better way if they try to coordinate, try to communicate and share their risk in a better way. The problems with this sector is the low turnover and the connection with the customers, but they empower the local community because the community also needs these kinds of ventures, because the local needs, the cultural needs and the social needs of the people in terms of professional advices of doctors, psychologists, engineers, technical people is needed by people at the local grounds, and one to one communication can make the products to be served in a better way. Now, let us study the summary of this lecture. The MSME sectors help in building the national wealth by increasing the employment and the economic output of the country. The small scale industries design the economic fabric of the society. Though the problems of these sectors are immense, but they still form a vital part of the economy. They give services to people, they give products to the services, they understand the local markets, and because you are prospering in local markets, the transportation cost for the local customers is low. The communication and the coordination between the customer and the sector is high. So, they are important for the society and they need to be promoted and they need to be recognized by government, and all the kind of the financial help and even the technical and the advisory help needs to be given to this sector to support society and people in a big way. I hope the students must have understood the technical definitions of SMEs and their problems and challenges. Thank you, students.